require hypocrisy of people. I'm sorry, you're asking.
I'm not asking
person.
for but I am asking for human decency. And if you don't think it has an impact on his family, to use even the phrases tonight that he's vulgar, fraud, and a crook, and then to say that the discovery of his carcass, I think you are incredibly mean, incredibly selfish, and incredibly thoughtless.
You invited me,
He's so
sir,
mean. I invited you, sir.
Of The Departed. I give it to you, and you say, well, might that not upset his family? I said it while he was alive.
You give his opinion
about have upset his family too.
You give the opinion about him, and I'm giving the opinion about you.
Tomfoolery.
And the faultlessness of your remarks here, and I'm really calling for any human decency that you may have in your pseudo intellectually superior mind of yours.
More of the debate on this coming up in a moment, and later, unbelievable video of a toddler.
And we continue now. Republican strategist Ralph Reed and columnist and author Christopher Hitchens. You know, Christopher, I interviewed you a little bit about your book just a short time ago. It made me think a lot. Jerry Falwell, because I do know him, he does a lot for people that are in trouble. He gave a lot of scholarships to his school. He helped women that were pregnant and needed help. He'd give them food and a place to live and an education. He did a lot to people that are alcoholics and et cetera, et cetera. You have your hostility towards religion, and that's without saying. You know, I just wonder, you know, when you compare his life, you know, there are a lot of good atheist communists out there like Stalin and Mao and Pol Pot. And, you know, they slaughtered millions. Jerry Falwell.
He got this talking point from Big Daddy Bill.
Yeah.
That was Bill's favorite thing to say.
Yeah, that's the no, that is true. I mean, like, you know, Jerry Falwell did nothing wrong, and you know, and all the atheists were, you know, I mean, like, I don't know. Those are the only atheists you can think of: Stalin, and Mao, and Pol Pot.
So the only atheists that Fox News could ever remember. They wouldn't mention Ayn Rand was an atheist, probably not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't imagine. Which is funny because I remember they made a movie like 10 years ago or something of one of Ayn Rand's books. I don't remember if it was The Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah.
But what I do remember thinking was funny is that there's like a bit role in there, like it's like a celebrity cameo kind of role from Glenn Beck. And it's like, okay, wait a second. How much do you know about Ayn Rand? Because she did not think highly of Christianity, you know, and there are there are clips of her where she's like talking about abortion, and she, you know, yes, of course, I will support the fetus is a parasite. You
know, I love like the cognitive dissonance that, you know, like right wingers will bring in Milo Yiannopoulos, like to, you know what I mean, like to further their goals because he's useful to them at the moment, and Ayn Rand, like very useful to them from an ideological standpoint. But yeah, you know, you bring her on these talk shows and she's just, you know, saying man should not subvert his reason to religion, you know, like you see these like the studio audience just like horrified, you know what I mean? And I just, you know, we don't get a whole lot on the left to enjoy, you know, but I could get even fatter off of that stuff, man. Just like just watching the cognitive dissonance people on the right go through, you know, and again, like people would have this with Hitchens, like we thought you were useful to us, you know, and now you're, you know, like whether it's Andrew Sullivan or whoever, but
yeah, I've always wondered if that might be some small part, like subconsciously, of why he, like, you know, because like, okay, the militant atheism was always part of his worldview, right?
Yeah.
Like this is, you know, stuff in the 80s where he wrote a couple of articles where he said things similar to what he would say is God is not great.
I was reading about this today in a book by this guy. You might have heard of. Go on.
Yeah. You know, I interviewed his brother Peter Hitchens, and he told me that he told me that he thought that the anti-theism was like the most consistent part of Christopher's views, going back to, he estimated, about the age of 11. So it's like this is clearly like a deeply held thing of his, but it wasn't something he emphasized at all, really, you know, until you know, I mean, really the, you know, mid to late 2000s, you know, that they have a, like, it was a little bit in like the late 90s, early 2000s, but like really, you know, the mid to late 2000s. And there are probably a lot of reasons for that, but I have to wonder if, again, subconsciously, some part of the reason is that it just didn't sit right with him that because of his foreign policy views at this point, he was spending all of his time agreeing with these people. And so he was like, okay, what's the most core thing that I could just fundamentally like fight with them about, you know?
Where should I stick the knife and twist it? Like, where am I going to get the most leverage in that? And it really is. I mean, and that, I guess that it was a big, that's why it was so influential for me, because like hearing from people like him and I always, it's weird. Some people I force myself to listen to, right? Even though I know, like, God, like Richard Dawkins is a real asshole. Like he just, and relishes in being an asshole, and, or some people who you might consider obnoxious or whatever, I try to listen to just to, hear what they actually have to say. But at that time, it was like I was surrounded in my community by, like a lot of Christian kids, like, and it like the culture war totally existed among students in high school. I remember when Bush won re-election and all the Republican kids who knew we didn't want him to were, like, oh, running at us in the halls and, making fun of us and stuff. Cause, we didn't want, more senseless violence in the Middle East or, what have you. And, being able to attack them at the place that is most like, I mean, this shit is part of their whole being. It's from when they're little kids. Yeah, it's very intimate, and I was like a troll. You know what I mean? I remember in AP English, I started referring to Lord of the Rings as like my religion, and I would get very upset with them if I was kind of cringe in that way. I have a Lord of the Rings tattoo, by the way, on my arm, but I would be like, don't belittle my people. We've been held down long enough, that kind of stuff. And it was just like, if you could get at them at that place, it was deeply upsetting to them. And again, when you have no power, when you have no political power, and the Democrats are a fucking joke, then what else do you have? It's kind of sad. It's cynical, but that's I mean, that really.
No, I think there's something there. Yeah,
I'm being honest here.
Yeah. No, so it's that might be it a little bit, right? It's like, okay, so we happen to have fallen into the same conclusion of foreign policy, but I still hate these people. So
yeah. He's like the Dwight meme, the Dwight laughing at something, and then the other person's there, and he's ooh, it's like he's like, oh my, I'm among all these people. I can't let them get too comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Well, slaughtered nobody in his life. He may have misspoke once or twice, but
he never slaughtered nobody.
Religion. You have nothing good to say.
God, it's like Gutfeld's mom. He's not Gutfeld's mom driving planes into buildings,
Yeah, totally. No, he never slaughtered anybody. I mean, he did. He was like an enemy of the civil rights movement, and he did. And he did spend decades, crusading against, letting gay people, live normal lives, but and etc. Right, but whatever. He didn't kill anybody. I mean, that's the standard, right?
God, oh man, with standards like that, jeez, it's but that was the great thing about the Mother Teresa book too. She was much more of a sacred cow than like Falwell. Everybody kind of recognized Falwell was much too boorish. You know what I mean? Everybody kind of knew well what he was. And to me, this is very like Hannity is working a little overtime to try to defend. He never slaughtered anybody, like Pol Pot and Stalin, or you know what I mean? Like
no, that's it. I mean, it's like was Jerry Falwell as bad as Pol Pot? No, in that case, he was a wonderful person.
Hey, sometimes when I'm feeling like, I need to lose some weight, you can always look at like,
you think, okay, but are there any killing fields that I'm responsible for?
Or is this that's easy to compare? Like if I'm feeling overweight, I can go watch like My 800-Pound Life on, TLC and be like, well, it's not that bad. I mean, Jerry Falwell was.
Yeah.
And
At the end of this clip, I hope it says that on his tombstone. Didn't commit genocide.
Didn't commit. Or I can't remember what bit that's reminding me of, but I there's more I want to get to the end of it, but I can't remember what I wanted to circle back on, but let's
say about him at all.
No, I repeat, Jerry Falwell lived on hatred and superstition and bigotry. He preached dislike of people whose lives he knew nothing about. He raised money from credulous fools.
You don't know anything about
Here it comes. Yeah.
Now, excuse me, sir. You can either ask me on and ask my opinion, or you may not. But I don't have to be here if you're going to take that attitude.
Well, you leave.
You spent the first half by saying I had no right to the opinion you'd asked me on to express. Now you're tiring me out. I repeat, though.
No, what I said is your opinion was thoughtless. What you wrote was crude and mean and hateful. That's what I said.
You took up all the time for my answer with your long, rather unlettered question.
Yes.
Jerry Falwell made a career out of sponsoring dislike and superstition. Said that people he didn't like were going to hell. Said the United States deserved to be attacked by Islamic fascists. Said he believed that people would be raptured into heaven, leaving all the rest of us to wallow behind. I think his death is a deliverance. And if you say that someone who occasionally makes a charitable donation is a good person, then you have to say that Hamas and Hezbollah, who do all this charitable giving,
how dare he practice religion in a country that celebrates it, Ralph Reed?
Sean, look,
and why not a word now from the friend of Jack Abramoff?
Wait, we only have a moment.
Yes.
Here's an important question.
This one's the best one.
Abramoff faction.
We only have a moment left.
From the Abramoff.
Hold on, Christopher. Ralph, the big controversy about Jerry Falwell was he fused religion and politics. And that's what people will be debating, I guess, going forward. And after he said he would not do such a thing, would Jesus have advocated the GOP, and was he right to bring in and marry those two and give that impression? We only have a very short time left, Ralph.
Well, I don't think that's ever what Dr. Falwell said. What he said was that there were certain transcendent values, such as the protection of innocent human life, the sanctity of marriage, the need to defend the state of Israel, his opposition to communism, his opposition to jihadism, and what he believed was that those values should be reflected in public policy. And I think that, when you have a community of Liberty University with its 10,000 students in residence, you have 22,000 members of his church, you have millions of others of people who looked up to him and admired him. I would really hope that people like Christopher would show the decency and respect to let those people mourn.
Tell it to Jack Abramoff.
Remember his memory without being torn down and attacked.
Oh,
right,
I believe. Wait, you're missing the final dig.
No. I know.
Okay.
I want to save for the last 9 seconds here, but I just I do want to just give a little love for a moment to by all means, let's hear from the friend of Jack Abramoff. Like that's a nice touch.
That was a chef kiss moment, and again, just like, I mean, I don't know. I know what the question I have for you, but let's let the final one of the greatest digs of all time.
That's your business partner.
Good try, Christopher.
Falwell was a personal friend of mine, and I'll miss him. When we come back, Cottle gets too close to a dancing performance in Times Square.
Oh my God. For anyone who missed it, if you gave Abramoff, or if you gave
Falwell an enema, you could have buried him in a Matchbox.
Incredible. I fumbled it. Incredible. Like one of the greatest. Creative. I mean, very creative wordsmith, rhetorician. Like it's and this is the question I have for you, Ben, as someone who spends a lot of his time debating, a master debater of the right. What role and how, like, Hitchens is using humiliation in a very, like, I mean, in only the way he could, right? That, like, it earned him the nickname Hitch-slap. But, like, what do you see as the role for when do you actually engage an opponent versus when like they are so ridiculous. Like I think he knows who he's talking to, and that's why he couldn't even let that guy have his say before he framed everything he was going to say. Let's hear from the friends of Jack Abramoff. You know what I mean? Like that kind of humiliation.
Well, I would also say that part of the deal here, like, you know, Christopher Hitchens did like real long form debates with everybody from, you know, William Lane Craig to Douglas Wilson to, you know, John Lennox, whatever, like all of these guys, right? And he was, you know, I mean, whatever. I mean, he was like, he didn't hold back. I mean, like he'd talk about how, you know, like heaven was like North Korea and stuff like that. But he did, you know, but he would like respectfully, you know, engage with their arguments. Part of the difference, I mean, I think there are two things. One, I think somebody like, even though some of these people that I just mentioned were like real lunatics, I also think that he had some level of respect for them that he just does not have for like Ralph Reed, like as a human being.
Oh my God.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
like I mean, he basically calls him a grifter earlier in that clip. You know, so he says that, you know, Falwell ran his religion as a business, you know, just as Ralph Reed does. And then so that's one thing. But then the other thing is, like I think the format also makes a difference here. That it's not like, you know, he's not like spending. It's not like if he were like debating one of the Gemstone children at Liberty University for 2 hours, you know, like he's got like 4.5 minutes between commercial breaks. I think whatever he says, he's gonna make sure it stands out.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive post-games on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.